Ethan Brooks adjusted the strap of his worn leather messenger bag as he stepped through the revolving doors of Westbridge Holdings, one of Chicago's most influential corporate towers. The morning had already been exhausting. After getting his 8-year-old daughter Lily ready for school, packing her lunch and making sure she smiled, despite the challenges they faced, he had rushed across the city to complete an urgent legal document delivery. Every minute mattered, because the papers required a personal signature before an important board meeting. Although Ethan had once dreamed of a different career, life had forced him to accept whatever honest work could provide stability for his daughter. He never complained, because Lily's future meant more than his own comfort. The building's marble lobby reflected wealth from every corner. Employees in tailored suits walked confidently between elevators, while assistants hurried with tablets and coffee. Ethan politely introduced himself to the receptionist and presented the delivery envelope, marked urgent. She quickly checked the system before frowning. A scheduling error showed the meeting had already begun on the executive floor. Without wasting time, she directed Ethan toward a private elevator, warning him to deliver the package immediately. Grateful for the guidance, he thanked her sincerely and rode upward, unaware that a simple administrative mistake was about to place him in the middle of a corporate storm. When the elevator doors opened, Ethan entered a hallway lined with glass offices overlooking the Chicago skyline. He could hear tense voices from the nearby boardroom, where executives discussed a major acquisition. Before he could knock, the boardroom doors swung open, and CEO Victoria Harrison stormed into the hallway. Elegant, confident, and known for demanding perfection, she immediately noticed the delivery envelope in Ethan's hands. Her expression darkened. Assuming he had interrupted the meeting through carelessness, she confronted him without asking a single question. Staff members froze as her sharp voice echoed through the executive floor. Ethan calmly explained that he had been instructed to deliver the documents immediately. But Victoria dismissed every word before he could finish. She criticized his appearance, questioned his professionalism, and declared that incompetence had no place inside her company. Executives and assistants watched in uncomfortable silence, while a few exchanged amused smiles, believing the delivery driver deserved the humiliation. Ethan remained respectful despite the insults, refusing to raise his voice or respond with anger. He simply held the envelope and waited for an opportunity to explain. Deep inside, however, he felt the familiar sting of being judged for his job rather than his character. The framed photo of Lily inside his wallet reminded him why he endured moments like this. No matter how unfair the world became, he had promised himself that his daughter would always see a father who met cruelty with dignity rather than bitterness. Victoria Harrison crossed her arms with complete confidence, convinced the trembling silence around her proved everyone agreed with her authority. She took one slow step toward Ethan and pointed to the exit. "You're lucky I'm only having you removed," she said coldly. "If you think anyone can stop me, call them now." A few executives laughed quietly, certain the exhausted single father had no powerful friends. Ethan lowered his eyes for a brief moment, not in fear but in disappointment. He had spent years avoiding one particular phone number because he wanted to build his life without depending on anyone. Yet today the humiliation was no longer just about him. It was about standing up for basic respect. He reached into his jacket and carefully pulled out his phone. Before dialing, he glanced at the photograph tucked inside his wallet. Lily's bright smile reminded him why he always chose patience over anger. Taking a slow breath, he selected a contact that had remained untouched for years. The line rang only once before a calm, familiar voice answered. "Ethan?" the man asked with surprise. Ethan spoke quietly so only those closest could hear. "I'm sorry to call after all this time, Richard, but I need your help." The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds. Ethan explained where he was and simply said, "I wouldn't have called unless it truly mattered." Richard's voice immediately became serious. "Stay exactly where you are. I'm coming." Victoria smirked after seeing the brief call finished, pretending she mocked. "Security will be here before your imaginary friend." The surrounding employees chuckled, believing the drama was over. Ethan slipped his phone back into his pocket and stood calmly beside the unopened envelope. He neither defended himself nor argued further. His composure confused several employees, who expected him to panic or beg for forgiveness. Instead, he waited with quiet confidence. That seemed strangely out of place for someone who had just been publicly humiliated. Even the receptionist who had escorted him upstairs began wondering whether something unusual was about to happen. Less than 10 minutes later, the private executive elevator opened with a soft chime. Every conversation stopped as Richard Harrison The billionaire founder of Westbridge Holdings and Victoria's father stepped onto the executive floor surrounded by only one assistant. His face carried none of the warmth employees usually associated with him. He walked straight past the executives without acknowledging anyone and stopped directly in front of Ethan. Looking him in the eyes, Richard said quietly, "You actually called me Ethan?" Nodded respectfully. The hallway fell into complete silence as Victoria's confident smile slowly disappeared. For the first time that morning, she realized the man she had mocked was connected to someone whose authority far exceeded her own.